Hey guys, happy Thanksgiving. Well, it's almost over, or if you're watching this later, it is over. But I hope you guys had a nice Thanksgiving. Um, Nicer than mine anyway. I mean, not that it was bad. I just laughed because I was reading some stories on the internet of you know worst um Thanksgivings ever, you know. So anyway, let me know that you can see me and hear me. Something's weird. I know that. No, it seems to be working. All right. Like I said, inside chat, if you can see me and hear me, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Kim, Brian. All right. Now that we got the tech stuff over with, um, there are some really funny stories about the horrible Thanksgivings. Mine wasn't bad. It was just non-existent. Um, as I mentioned last Thursday, Danielle and Logan are out of town right now, and that's okay. They're having the trip of a lifetime. I'm just going to pull up their itinerary here. My wonderful sister-in-law, Denise, Danielle's sister. Hi, Jupiter. Hi. How are you? He's very dark, so I don't know if you guys can see him. Oh, too late. Anyway, my wonderful sister-in-law, I was trying to say, paid for the vacation, the flights, the hotels, everything for Danielle and for Logan. So that was, yeah, that was Jupiter. So that was just so nice of her. But let me back up and briefly tell you guys why this trip is so important for Danielle. Um, when Danielle was growing up and when we were dating, and for years after we got married, when Danielle's mom was alive, uh, the rule was everybody went to Danielle's mom's for Thanksgiving. And it was a huge family. Danielle has one older sister, had four older brothers, and they'd bring their kids, and you can imagine how huge that got very quickly. But it was great, and Danielle really, really, really misses them, those gatherings, and I do too, actually. I really honestly do. Uh, Especially once Danielle's mom decided I was a good guy after all. And then Danielle's mom died. Wow. Like, man, time flies. I guess it's been 18 years now since she passed away. Uh, so then, no more Thanksgivings like that. So Danielle's been doing a great job with our little family of doing Thanksgivings at our place ever since. Or we have occasionally gone, elsewhere, other family members around the country and so forth. Well, Danielle's within the last couple of years, two oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Brandon. I hope tonight helps a bit. And by the way, hey everybody, let me know about your day in the side chat. We got Brian, Dave. Dave, thank you for the nice for the for the food, man. That was great. Appreciate it. And we got Kim, Snixel Mix. I like saying that. Snixel Mix Nix. Snixel Mix Nix. There we go. Marianne, hey, and Brandon. So I'm sure there are others who haven't commented yet, but last couple of years, her oldest brothers died, and they weren't really, that old. And now, in the last couple of months, we found out that there's a health issue with her brother Todd, and that's all I can say about that. And so he might deteriorate very soon. So I say all that to say this, not to bring you guys down, but to say how important this trip is for Danielle, because Danielle and Logan went, Danielle's sister went, um, Danielle's brother Todd and his wife and their daughter went. Uh, she's a sweet kid, and so it's just they're having a blast. They're having a blast. This is my first Thanksgiving without them, uh, without Danielle for 30 years. I've always been with her on Thanksgiving, and it I knew it would be hard, but it's it's been harder than I thought it would be, to be honest. Um, but I want you to listen to these plans, and I'm going to thank her sister Denise till the end of time for paying for all of this, because they really are making memories that are going to last a lifetime. And when you know bad days come in the years ahead, as they always do, this will be something that Danielle can look back on and remember, and smile a little bit, hopefully. Um, all right, so I took them to the airport Tuesday. They're coming back Saturday, 2 days from now. So here's their itinerary. Tuesday. No, oh, they went to New York City. I don't know if I mentioned that. Very exciting. I'm kind of jealous. I'd love to be around all those skyscrapers. They're staying on the 60th floor. Danielle sent me a uh, picture of took a photo of the view out of their window in the hotel room, and there's just skyscrapers everywhere. All right, so here we go. Tuesday, they arrive in New York City. Dinner at Ellen's Stardust Theater. Wednesday, 9 a.m. NBC Studios tour. And then they rode the subway to the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. And then dinner at Tony Napoli's Times Square. They walked around Times Square that night too, which is pretty cool. Yeah, Kim, 60th floor, man. Uh, Wednesday, where am I at? Yeah, Thursday, this morning. I set my alarm early because I didn't want to miss it. They went to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade, and they were all ready with warm clothing and you know what do I want to say, tarps, whatever you call them, so that because it was raining and they knew it was going to rain, and to keep the rain off of them. And Danielle sent me a text when it was over, and she's like, "We're cold as hell, but that was such a blast and so fun." So yeah, they were there for the parade. What else we got here? Okay, and then Thanksgiving dinner at Trattoria dell'Arte. I'm probably saying that wrong. And then tomorrow they're going to go to the Bronx Zoo, have an early dinner at PJ Clark's, and then they're seeing a musical called Six. It's about Henry VIII's six wives, apparently. So they're really looking forward to that. And it looks like they might go skating and everything too. And then Saturday, they're coming home. Anyway, so you can see how wonderful that sounds and why I was. That's much more important than I mean, we can do a Thanksgiving thing next week. That's much more important. And I miss them a lot, but I'm so happy that they're making these memories. So And again, to my sister-in-law, Denise, if you ever watch this, thank you so much for making it all possible. So, what about you guys? Did you guys have a good Thanksgiving? Speaking of Henry VIII, the television adaptation of The Mirror and the Light is just wrapping up. Is that new, Brandon? I mean, it must be new if it's just wrapping up. Dumb question. Um, but I look forward to them telling me about the play or about the musical, I should say. So there's that. So I got one more day without him, and then they'll be here on Saturday. I'm sorry to hear that, Marianne. I guess we were both more or less on our own today. Um, that sucks. And then I was looking up. Just to make myself smile. I looked up some. I just Googled like cringe-worthy Thanksgiving Day stories. Um, here's a funny one. It in the 90s had the neighbors over for Thanksgiving dinner. Everything is going wonderfully. And this is not me, just to clarify. And the conversation turns to Thanksgiving's past. And the neighbor lady says, Thanksgivings are always a little sad for me. It was on Thanksgiving that I found my pet parrot of 20 years dead in his cage. We all sympathize, and I ask, how did he die? Was it old age? And she says she didn't know. He was a young, healthy bird, not that young, who was his active, talkative self just the night before. And then her adult son from across the table says, he died because he was poisoned. The mom says, what? While calmly eating his dinner, he says, fucking thing wouldn't shut up that night, so I poured some insecticide or something into his water dish. Oh my God. Uh, 16 people at the table were just jawed. The mom bursts into tears and runs out of the house, and the son just sits there like nothing at all happened. It still comes up every year. Sociopath much? Wow. Holy moly. And Donna, I don't know if you're watching or maybe you're going to watch later, but another uh, Patreon newer friend, sent me a Amazon gift certificate today. Thank you for that. That's like guilt-free money that you can spend on Amazon. Those are great. Um, I'll read one more. Let's see here. Try to find a really good one. I was seated next to my much older second cousin. I was around 17. He was in his late 20s. Earlier that day, my grandma had alluded to the fact that second cousins can technically get married. Okay, good to know. You never know when something like that will come in handy. Oh man. I was a kid at the time. We decided to go to my mom's friend's house for Thanksgiving dinner. While at the table, we had to say prayers. When it was my turn, I said, but Mom, Jesus isn't real. Do I have to? The rest of the evening, I kept getting stares from my mother. So, yeah. So, anyway, let's look at you guys. Did you guys have a bunch of uh, family over? You know, Snicks Ol' Mix. That's funny. Kim says I had leftovers for lunch, then fried up some sausage, made up a bag of dressing that I got for a steal a year or so ago. The red wine has been flowing rather heavily at my parents' house. Brandon says, Mike, I remember you saying that you were in the works voicing an audiobook. Is that released yet? Uh, I don't think I've ever said anything like that, Brandon. I've mentioned once that I was thinking of getting on the I don't know what they call it, but the section ACX, so I think that's what it's called, where you can record samples of your voice, like reading a paragraph of something, that kind of thing, and then publishers and authors can that they can choose from the samples that are out there, and then hopefully somebody chooses you at some point. So, but ask me if I've done that yet. No, I have not. So, I had I if you're a patron, you know this, but I posted a new Patreon podcast yesterday with the writer Kristen Dearborn, and it was really great, really a fun conversation. But we also talked about one of the many things we talked about was the missing 411 phenomenon or whatever you want to call it. And it's always such a great feeling. She knew all about it. I knew all about it. We were just talking about it. It's always a great feeling when you recommend something to someone and they really like it. I recommended to Kristen the documentary slash film Missing 411 The Hunted. Um, oh, but yeah, thanks, Brandon, for saying that. I do read horror stuff every Tuesday night at 10 Eastern right here. So, um, and I'm going to be reading The Festival next, this coming Tuesday. That's appropriate for the season, and it's one of my favorite Lovecraft stories. So, so yeah. All right. What was the old man saying before he lost his train of thought? Um, oh yeah, Missing 411, The Hunted. Don't watch the first one. I don't think it's very good, but Missing 411, The Hunted is pretty eerie. Several of the stories in there are just really eerie, and Kristen said so too. But I want to read an article from, of all places, the Huffington Post from way back in December of 2017, so 7 years ago. Subtitled, If You Like Mystery and Detective Novels with a Hint of the Paranormal, this is very real and up-close accounting of a long-term mystery with, as of yet, no reasonable explanation. The title of this is Never Be the Last in Line, which is what grabbed me. That's a pretty eerie title. Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. I gotta let Monty out. 1 second. Alright, sorry about that. I put my headphones back on. That's what happens when you watch live. Uh, may not read the whole thing, but I'll read the pertinent parts. Authorities and researchers may be overlooking common details that seem to tell a bizarre story about missing persons. This is just also fascinating to me. When the facts are reviewed over longer periods of time, the results are rather unsettling. Inside David Paulides' latest book in his Missing 411 series, North America and Beyond is a running mystery with obvious overlapping clues. The idea is made in a rapid-fire unfolding of details in case after case that perhaps authorities are overlooking the common threads tying it all together. See, you get to listen to me right now, Brandon. Most missing person cases get a lot of media attention quickly, as usually hundreds of volunteers and trained searchers from multiple agencies make the attempt at locating the individual. But after a predictable number of days, based sometimes on their location and age, searchers abandon the case and assume the victim cannot have survived and is dead. I'm sorry. Monty, I trusted you not to do that. Quit tackling Jupiter. In other cases, the victim is found, dead or alive, and everyone goes home. Pilates Pilates concentrates his research on rural cases with a particular criteria. Included on that list, people who go missing with their canines. Missing found near creeks, rivers, or other bodies of water. Bad weather follows the disappearance. Shoes or other articles of clothing are missing and never found, and berries are somehow related. Hang on. Monty, he doesn't want to wrestle all the time. Okay? Okay, bud. Come on. You got to recognize the signs when he doesn't want to wrestle there, Monty. Sorry about that, you guys. I need a haircut and a shave. All right, if you're still with me, while that is only a partial list of what the author looks for, Pilates has assembled an incredibly detailed group of cases from across North America, with very common and overlapping details. If you look at just one or a few cases, you don't see it. But if you continue to read and follow along with even a few dozen cases, you understand that these simple details are telling a story. The horror in the book is how quickly some people go missing. This is the part that's really fascinating to me. They are there 1 minute and gone the next. And when friends or family quickly try to locate the person in the immediate vicinity, they are nowhere to be found. Being last in line, often the person disappearing, is another common element. Now think about that for a second. And he's done research in cities too. Now, I am not saying at all that I believe this is paranormal or aliens or, you know, somebody slipped into another dimension or anything. All I'm saying is that the whole thing is fascinating to me. And especially this, being last in line. Often the person disappearing is another common element. And in my mind I picture people like in line at night, maybe going to a movie that's on its first night, so there's a line outside. And you know, you and three friends, you guys are at the end of the line, and then suddenly you look around and you're like, "Where's Jack? Where did he go?" So yeah, exactly, Kim. Or waiting to get into a club. It can be all kinds of things. For those who go missing, meeting Pilates criteria and are found, you will read that they either cannot say what happened to them, often due to their young age, or have a foggy memory of what happened. One woman stated that she was walking around in very unfamiliar territory and did see other people, but they could not see her. I'm going to skip ahead here. But the case for missing people grows darker when another clue emerges in the research over time. There are very certain clusters of missing people from around the country, certain areas of just 1 or 2 or 3 mile areas where higher numbers of people go missing. And the rather startling and weird fact is that they go missing over a long period of time. So if you Google "never be the last in line" and Huffington Post, then you can read the entire article for yourself. But I find it very fascinating. And it's been maybe 3 years since I watched Missing 411. I may watch it again tonight, actually. You guys should watch it. But I remember being very impressed with not all of the cases that are mentioned in that documentary. Um, Not mentioned, but the stories that are told, but with most of them, you know, and especially with, as I recall, the last one. And yeah, I'll rewatch it and then I'll talk about it on Sunday in a little bit more detail. But you know what? You guys know the rule. If I recommend something to you and you like it, or you don't like it, that's fine too. Uh, it's always a great feeling to me if I recommend a book or a movie or a TV show or whatever, and the person I recommended it to loves it. So that being the case, email me, lovecrafteasing@gmail.com. So um, they've sort of eliminated those possible reasons in most cases, Brandon. And there, I don't remember reading about any kidnappings. Now, some of these, in fact, many of these are bound to have a logical explanation. And just because you don't know the explanation doesn't mean that there isn't one. However, there are some really strange ones that really make you stop and think. And the guy, at least back then, I don't know about now, the author didn't really draw any conclusions. He didn't say something like Bigfoot's getting all these people or UFOs. He basically just said he documented everything, and then he was like basically going, "What the f is going on? Where are these people?" So it's pretty interesting. This is how I get kicked out of my chair. Did you see that? Jupiter just came right behind me. Now I gotta scoot up. There you go, buddy. You got enough room, or do you need me to stand? He is so cute and tiny. Monty's cute in a different way. He's a big boy, but he's a long hair. I've never had a long-haired cat before. Here, why don't you go sit in the easy chair? And he's just such a beautiful cat. Really beautiful cat. So anyway, check out Missing 411 The Hunted and let me know what you guys think. You know, if you've seen it, email me. If you're gonna see it, I believe it's free on, is it Tubi? Let me see here. Missing 411 The Hunted is free on Tubi. Yep. Yes, it is. Hey, Jazz, happy Thanksgiving. So, yeah, there we go. All right. Tonight, Danielle and Logan and the family were at, until just recently, the top of the Empire State Building. And she just texted me with some pictures. Show you one. Check this out, guys. If you can see it. No, you can't see it. Well, trust me, it's jaw-dropping. I'll post it on social media later, but I don't know. It's just I've never been in New York City, so I've got stars in my eyes about this whole thing. So so yeah. Um, yeah, Netflix and Hulu. You never use? I use Hulu a lot, but Netflix, I don't have it, and I don't miss it. I've got Hulu, and then I have certain channels because my wife needs them. Peacock and Paramount are her two big channels. So so anyway, hey Rom. So everybody, did you have a nice Thanksgiving? I hope you did. Or if you didn't, then I hope this makes it a little bit better. Let's see here. So I'm going to read the festival on Tuesday. Good question, Dave. Dave says, I know you've talked about big differences between Iowa and Texas in terms of Halloween. What about Thanksgiving? Uh, Not so much, except for me personally. It's weird for it not to be usually cold on Thanksgiving. I'm used to it being quite a bit colder. And today, actually, it was in the 50s, and it's going to get down to like 39 tonight. That's the coldest yet. So, compared to usual, this is a cold Thanksgiving here in the Dallas and surrounding area. So, um, so yeah, not so much. Kim, you use Tubi a lot. I think and the commercials are not, they're not like 5-minute commercials. I don't see how anybody watches regular TV anymore. I'm just so used to not watching things with commercials. Um, I've been watching non-horror related. I've been watching a show called Tracker. I like the actor Justin Hartley. He played Green Arrow in Smallville. Really liked his character there. And then he was in a show Danielle watched called This Is Us. And so Tracker he stars in, and I mean it's not like a deep show with, you know, multiple themes running through and all that. It's just a fun show. And it's one of it's something that I like. Same with Smallville. No, excuse me, not Smallville. Same with Supernatural, and the same with Jack Reacher, the books when I first got into them, is that these characters are basically crisscrossing the country, and going wherever they feel like going. In other words, freedom. And so this guy in Tracker, he does the same thing. Um, he has feelers out and all that, and he has people who help him behind the scenes, and they'll call him up and say, "Hey, there's a reward being offered for this lady who's gone missing in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or whatnot." And he's got I think it's an SUV, but then he's got an Airstream, and I think that's his only home, which is really cool. So so yeah, I enjoy it. It's something really light and fun to watch sometimes in between the horror stuff. And while we're on the subject of light, I've been watching a little bit of Murder in a Small Town. It's on Hulu, and that's kind of a show where one of the stars, Kristen. Crook. She said you kind of want to, while you're watching it, you want to get a cup of tea and that goes right with the show. And then I recommended those two to Matt Carpenter, and one more. What's the other one that I recommended? Oh yeah, a show called Forever. I believe you have to rent Forever. It's only one season. It was out about 10 years ago, but it's got a theme that really interests me, which is it's about an immortal guy. You guys know how much I like the movie The Man from Earth. There are other long-lived or immortal characters in literature that I've really enjoyed. This guy is about 200 years old, and Judd Hirsch is in it as well. Um, and he's, he something strange happened to him the first time he was killed, and he came back to life. And he's a coroner, medical examiner, excuse me, in New York City. And it's just a fun show with that little hint of, I guess, supernatural or the paranormal. So, so if you're looking for something to kind of, you just need something light. Everybody needs a palate cleanser. Sometimes. Um, oh, Marianne's seen it. Yes, I love that show. Now, before you say, damn it, it got canceled after one season, you're right, it did. But there's a full 22 episodes of like 45 minutes each. And the way I think about things like this is, how long is a movie? Hour and a half, 2 hours? If you have 22 episodes that are 45 minutes each, man, you've got, I mean, this is longer than the extended, the three extended Lord of the Rings movies. So that's one way to think of it. Yeah. So anyway, just a fun show. Um, but he says something at the end of the first episode that I really like. Um, and I'm going to read it real quick. He says, I've seen a lot of death, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. But I've also seen a lot of life, a lot of beauty, a lot of wonder. It's not it's not the number of years we live that matters. Our lives just add up to a series of moments. They stick with us, marking our souls forever. And I just really like that. I quoted that to Danielle about her trip, with her family and the moments and the memories that they're making. And yeah, that really is what life is, isn't it? And we're always after more of those moments. Um, Hopefully, I create a few moments for you guys, and hopefully, you're always looking for those moments in your own lives. I'm sure you are. I don't have to say hopefully. Dave says, I really enjoyed the Ellery Queen series from the 70s with Jim Hutton and sad it only ran for one season. Yeah. The cool thing about, you know, up until what, 5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, TV seasons in the United States were pretty long. 22 episodes, 20 to 24 episodes, something like that. These days, uh, you'll get a streaming series and it'll have 8 to 10. So, so yeah, if you have 22 episodes to watch and they're 45 minutes, you've got a lot of watching to do. Yep, Snicksel Mix, you're right. Um, I think that's most of what I got, except I was thinking about fear. If you guys watched or listened to last Sunday's show, someone who was watching live asked a really great question about fear and, you know, does the ability to experience fear in fiction decrease as you get older and something like that. But it really got us started on a really good discussion that I won't repeat here, but I really enjoyed it. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from viewers that they did too. I read a book a long time ago when we're talking about the fear, speaking of the fear of the things in life, and fear is a companion to worry, right? To anxiety. And when I was a young man, I read a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And we're talking, God, at least 30 years ago, because I think it was before I met Danielle. But the biggest thing that I got out of that book was that worry and fear of that something will happen, fear kind of, it in that sense, not in the sense of watching a horror movie, in that sense, it comes down to really, you can boil it down to one thing. What your brain is saying is, if X happens, I won't be able to handle it. If I lose my job, I'm not gonna be able to handle it. So I'm really worried about losing my job. If you know, I get into an accident and I can't walk, I'm trying to think of shit. There's a lot of stuff that can happen. That X can be filled with so many different things. But it was all about making up your mind and telling yourself that something pretty simple. And it's a muscle. Yeah, it's easier said than done, and I realize that. But it's just something to think about. And I started implementing it in my life. And just like a muscle, I got stronger and stronger at it, better and better at it. And like I said, that was 30 years ago. And what I'm talking about is this. To make up I made up my mind that whatever happened, I would handle it. I would find a way to handle it, and if possible, use that to make things better in my life if I could, or make some good come out of it. Might be a better way to put that. For example, I never worried about coming down with a chronic illness, but it happened, and here's the bad that came out of that. Um, this I got sick about 16, 17 years ago, and I was a real estate agent. I loved it. Uh, I always feel obligated to say that I wasn't a salesman. I just was more of an advisor to people because I think that's what people need when they're gonna buy a house. It's a huge thing. Anyway, and I was making good money, so I couldn't keep doing it. I was too sick, and so that's something pretty bad. And eventually we had to declare bankruptcy. I don't know if I've ever said this on to you guys before. And we lost our house, and let me tell you, it was our dream home. And all of this was really hard to take. But here's the good that came out of it. Danielle and I made up our minds to make some good come out of this. The good thing that came out of it is, first of all, I mean, one thing is right here and right now, the Lovecraft Easing projects and podcast and everything. Uh, do I make the money that I made back then? No, not even close. But I really love doing this. I wouldn't go back. I really wouldn't. Um, Danielle, I don't think she would have ever gotten into teaching if that hadn't happened. Um, So those are just two big good things that happened there. So I'm not saying this and coming at you like, excuse me, I'm sorry, stuffed up. I'm not saying, look, wow, Mike's got all the answers and he's all zen and he's really good at this, so you guys better fucking listen. That's not what I mean. What I mean is, I went through a lot of shit when I was a kid, and I had to really study to try and turn things around for myself mentally, and that fear, that anxiety and worry was one of those things. So I learned from it, and if I can pass it on to even one person and it helps, I want to do that. Um, just reading Marianne's comment and Snixel Mix's comment. Uh, he says, I'm afraid of more things now that I'm older, all the possible illnesses that can come at any time, all the important people around me dropping like flies. Well, I guess I can speak to illnesses that can come on you pretty suddenly. And I guess all I have to say is, I know it's easier said than done, man, but, maybe start exercising that muscle. And whenever you start, here's what I did way back then is whenever I started to worry about something, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if I can't pay my rent? You know, I would just stop right there and I would say, Mike, make sure that whatever happens, you'll find a way to handle it. And over time, it kind of became second nature with me. Dave, you certainly can. Dave says, can I ask why Danielle became a teacher when she's been a prosecutor? Um, she loved being a prosecutor, is just like on TV when you see like Law and Order. It was exactly that. Um, but it also can get, if you're a person who cares like Danielle does, then it can really start to get to you. For example, one of her last cases was a girl who had a baby and tossed it into the dumpster. She didn't want anyone to know that she'd been pregnant. I guess she hid it pretty well. I don't remember. And when she had the baby, she tossed it into a dumpster. And obviously, that was pretty rough. Um, it wasn't a direct line from stopping being a prosecutor to teacher, but it was things like that that made her decide to quit. And do teachers get paid less? Yeah, I mean, shamefully, yes. But, and I tell her this all the time, if there's a such thing as a person being meant to do a certain career, if there are real things such as a calling, which I believe there are, I don't know that they come from somebody else, but then she has it. I mean, she is absolutely in the job that she should be in, Dave. Um, she loves teaching. She's the teacher that kids look back, that adults look back 20 years later and say, maybe a lot of my teachers suck, but man, I had this one teacher who really cared and changed me with, and she teaches high school English, but that's just part of it, right? If you're a teacher that really cares, you want to be there for your students. And I won't even get into it, but I realize I'm biased, but I see it over and over. I see kids write her notes just out of the blue, and she brings them home, and they say things like, I hated English class until I got to your grade, and it's the one class every day that I look forward to going to. Things like that. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Dave. She's doing what she's meant to do. I mean, and I am too. Well, we make less money, but in the 5 minutes before I die, when I'm on my deathbed, I am not going to be going, God damn it, if only I'd made more money. What I will be doing is thinking about things like tonight, things like, Necronomicon, along with all my family and friends and personal things, obviously, but just in relation to career, that's what I'll be remembering. So, a good rule of thumb is, yeah, you're right, Dave. I'll tell that in a second. Thanks for the reminder. When Logan was little, yeah. A good rule of thumb, if you're thinking about something, should I do this? Should I do that? And it's big decision. Say to yourself, what would your 80-year-old self, you know, say to you if he or she could travel back in time and talk to you when you're 35 or whatever age you are, 53 in my case? What would that older version of yourself advise you to do? Would they say, "No, play it safe, stay in the boring job, um, you know, just get through life. Don't live life, but life is just something to get through." Or would they say, "Hey, fucking go for it. Life's too short." And my older self gives me good advice. So, and yours probably does too. All right, what Dave's referring to is when she was a prosecutor, Logan was little. He was telling his friends one time he was all proud of his mom's job, and he I think he was at a friend's house, and he was like, "Yeah, my mom, telling her all about this and that, and she's a prostitute." And the kid's mom overheard, and she's like, "Say what now?" And long story short, it was pretty funny. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty hilarious. You haven't heard that one yet, Kim, huh? I thought I told that at one point or another. Oh, I guess I did because Dave knows. Dave says, I can tell you one day I was working my morning job as a sales rep and told I was an embarrassment to the company, and my afternoon job, same day, called me invaluable. Decision made. Yeah. Yeah, it's another thing. Go where you're appreciated, right, Dave? So I said I wouldn't go back to being a realtor and making a ton of money. I can tell you for sure Danielle wouldn't go back to being a prosecutor. She loves teaching. So, yeah, hope that answers your question, Dave. Thanks. Um, well, last but not least, Mr. Kelly Young watched Smile 2 the other day and said it was really good, at least as good as the first one. So, I rented it tonight and I'm in the middle of it. So far it's pretty good. Uh, pretty, yeah, it's pretty creepy. Yeah, you're right, Dave. Or I'm sorry, you're right, Snixel Mix. Good teachers are rare, and that's why she gets those notes from all the kids. From many of the kids. You know, um, Unfortunately, there are teachers who it's just a job, and they don't. I don't know why. I've seen teachers that she's worked with. I just shake my head and I ask Danielle, why the hell are they even teachers? They seem like they hate the kids. Maybe they should have chosen a different career. So, so yeah, I want you guys check out Smile 2. Definitely check out Smile if you haven't watched it yet. And check out Missing 411 The Hunted on Tubi. And email me and let me know what you think. Or comment on Sunday, whichever you prefer. Uh, Lovecraft, easy, at gmail.com. My voice is getting hoarse. Um, anyway, thank you for spending an hour on Thursday night with me. I really appreciate it, especially this Thanksgiving. And thinking about you guys. Appreciate all of you. Appreciate especially the people who make sure I do get that paycheck for doing this. Otherwise, I'd have to go drive for Uber or something instead of this. And I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend, if it is a holiday for you. And I will see you on Sunday. Happy Thanksgiving, guys.